I froze in the doorway. The bright morning sunlight streamed through the apartment windows, illuminating a scene that made my heart stop. A young woman stood in my kitchen, barefoot, holding a coffee mug with both hands. She was wearing my oversized blue shirt and nothing else visible beneath it. The shirt I had been searching for all week. The shirt my late wife used to borrow on cold mornings. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and the power of second chances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to the channel Love and Destiny. Your support helps these stories reach more hearts around the world. My name is Callum Mercer, and at 39 years old, I thought life had already taken everything from me. 3 years earlier, I had buried my wife, Marissa, after a sudden illness. Since then, my days had become identical copies of each other. Wake up. Go to work. Come home. Eat alone. Sleep. Repeat. The apartment still looked like a museum dedicated to memories. Her books remained on the shelves. Her favorite mug sat untouched in the cabinet. Even the framed photographs stayed exactly where she had left them. Friends told me it was unhealthy. Family urged me to move on. But grief doesn't follow schedules. That morning had started like every other morning until I saw the stranger. Her name was Rowan Hale. As the shock faded, the truth emerged in pieces. She wasn't a thief. She wasn't who I thought she was. She was the daughter of my elderly neighbor, Mrs. Hale, who had been hospitalized unexpectedly the previous night. Rowan had rushed into town from another state after receiving the call. Her mother's spare key had accidentally opened my apartment because the building manager had mixed up two nearly identical units. The shirt? That mystery had an even stranger explanation. A week earlier, Rowan had arrived briefly to help her mother clean and accidentally picked up a bag of laundry that had been left outside the wrong apartment. My shirt had ended up among her belongings without either of us realizing it. It should have been a funny misunderstanding. Instead, it became the beginning of something neither of us expected. Over the following weeks, I saw Rowan often. Every day after work, she visited her recovering mother. Sometimes we crossed paths in the hallway. Sometimes we shared coffee in the courtyard downstairs while the afternoon sun warmed the concrete benches. She carried sadness in her eyes that reminded me of my own. Eventually, I learned why. 2 years earlier, Rowan had lost her husband in a highway accident. She was only 32. Since then, she had abandoned her dreams of becoming an illustrator. The sketches she once filled notebooks with now sat untouched in boxes. Loss had frozen both of us. We were strangers connected by grief. Summer arrived. The city seemed brighter while we remained trapped in old shadows. Yet little things began changing. Rowan laughed more often. I found myself opening curtains that had remained closed for years. We talked about books, music, childhood memories, and regrets. One afternoon, while helping Mrs. Hale organize her storage room, I discovered a cardboard box filled with Rowan's artwork. The drawings were breathtaking. Sunlit streets. Families embracing. Children running through parks. Faces full of life and hope. I couldn't understand why she had stopped. That evening, as daylight spilled across the city skyline, I realized something important. The woman who created those drawings still existed. She was simply buried beneath years of pain. From that day forward, I made it my mission to encourage her. I bought sketchbooks and left them anonymously at her mother's apartment door. I signed her up for a local community art exhibition without telling her. I reminded her constantly that talent doesn't disappear simply because life becomes difficult. At first she resisted. Then she started drawing again. One sketch became 2. 2 became 20. 20 became an entire collection. Watching her rediscover herself felt like witnessing spring arrive after the longest winter imaginable. But healing is never simple. Just when things seemed to improve, Mrs. Hale's health suddenly worsened. Complications sent her back to the hospital. Rowan spent sleepless nights sitting beside her mother's bed. Fear returned. Exhaustion followed. The progress she had made began slipping away. One afternoon, I found her sitting alone outside the hospital entrance. The day was beautiful. Children played nearby. Cars passed beneath clear blue skies. Yet she looked completely defeated. I sat beside her. No speeches. No advice. Just quiet companionship. Sometimes people don't need solutions. Sometimes they simply need someone willing to stay. Weeks later, Mrs. Hale recovered enough to return home. It wasn't a miracle, but it was enough. The crisis passed. And something changed between Rowan and me. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. Just slowly and honestly. For the first time since losing Marissa, I allowed myself to imagine a future that wasn't defined by sorrow. And for the first time since losing her husband, Rowan allowed herself to believe happiness wasn't a betrayal of the past. One crisp autumn morning, nearly a year after the strange shirt incident, Rowan's artwork was featured at a major regional exhibition. Hundreds attended. Several pieces sold. One collector purchased an entire series. As I watched visitors admire her work, I saw tears forming in her eyes. Not tears of sadness. Tears of someone finally remembering who they are. The woman standing under the gallery lights was no longer hiding from life. She was living it. And somehow, against all odds, I was too. Years later, people would ask how we met. They expected a romantic story. A dramatic tale. Instead, we always laughed and told them the truth. It started with a misplaced key. A wrong apartment. And a blue shirt. If this story is touching your heart so far, please take a moment to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Love and Destiny. Stories like these remind us that hope can arrive when we least expect it. Rose special request, comment below with the word hope if you believe that new beginnings are possible even after life's hardest losses. Today, that old blue shirt still hangs in our closet. Neither of us wears it much anymore. But every time I see it, I remember the lesson it brought into my life. Sometimes the people who change us forever don't arrive with grand entrances. They appear quietly, carrying their own scars, their own heartbreaks, and their own unfinished stories. And sometimes, when two broken paths unexpectedly cross in the daylight, they don't simply heal. They become a road forward. If this story touched your heart, please leave a comment and let us know where you're watching from. Your support means the world to us and helps keep these stories alive. Because kindness matters. Second chances matter. And sometimes, the most beautiful chapters begin with the moment you least expect.